I just want to go over what I refer to as a binding dose versus a detox dose. So when I refer to binding, I'm just referring to just grabbing onto things that are generally circulating, and that's going to have a overall health benefit. When I say detox, I'm referring to your body pushing out deeply stored metals and toxic elements for excretion. So ZeoCharge can be both. So first, it's a binder where it's going to grab on to the circulating toxic elements, including ammonia and excess histamine, along with the metals and the radioactive particles and all the other stuff, which is fantastic. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get your body to the point where it's going to start pushing out the metals, and that's really what you want for a true detox. So, because the key to a deep level 3 deep storage detox is to get your body to do it for you, to naturally push it out. So what happens sometimes, and what we're going to see here, is the lower dose, in this case 2 tablespoons, was an effective binder. So she was getting improvement in minerals, her vitamins were getting better, everything was great, but she wasn't really detoxing, right? She's lowering the levels. Yes, okay, that's great. She's removing some stuff, but really you want those levels to go up to get to the point where you're on that next level detox. So that's where the dose is important, because basically the body's not going to release level 3 toxins, the deeply stored metals into the circulation if it doesn't feel confident it's going to be able to get it out, because the body is more concerned with short-term survival over long-term thrival. So the body would prefer to keep mercury stored in your brain because it's basically sequestered away from the immune system and it's causing less issues short-term. Long-term, yeah, not great. Could be deteriorating the brain, causing a lot of issues. But short-term, let's say you are already at your threshold and you have a lot of stuff floating around in circulation, and maybe you're exposed to mold and you have Lyme, whatever's going on, your immune system's already overactive. Just your body trying to remove any excess metal, let's say mercury, is going to be a very stressful experience, and it's not going to do it, because the body says, it's easier for me just to keep the mercury in the organs than to try to get it out of the body, because if it's on the way out of the body, the immune system's going to attack it, and the immune system's already at full capacity dealing with all the stuff from a daily basis. So that's where the dose is incredibly important with ZeoCharge, because you want to have enough ZeoCharge to remove everything that's currently floating around, and then anything potentially that's going to be released in to general circulation during the detox process. Things get stirred up, and then the body feels confident to really start dumping the metals out at that point. And that's why ZeoCharge is so effective, I think, compared to other chelators and detox agents, is because it's so broad spectrum, because you really want to remove a lot of immune stressors, not just metals. And chelators are not really going to go after histamine or ammonia, radioactive particles, a lot of these other things that are also causing issues. So the ZeoCharge is going after all of those along with the metals, which makes it a little bit unique. So the point of this is, some people are taking a low dose of ZeoCharge or most other detox products, including liquid zeolites, and they think they're detoxing, but a lot of times they're not. They're binding, and that's why they feel better. Because if you're binding on to the toxic elements that are floating around, it prevents your immune system from attacking them. If your immune system's not attacking them, there's less inflammation being produced and you're going to feel better. So deep level detox generally does not make you feel better right away. The binding is what makes you feel better. So here we have the lady. She's been on 4 months. She's been taking the 2 tablespoons of ZeoCharge, 2 capsules of fulvic charge, also a bunch of other stuff from her functional medicine practitioner, homeopathic drainage, Z-binder, all sorts of stuff, right? And she, it appears to be working. She's getting better, but she's not really detoxing that well. So what we did was we said, all right, let's double the dose from 2 tablespoons to 4 tablespoons. And then we see huge dump in mercury, right? So now we're rolling. Now we're detoxing. The rest is still not really moving, but silver, mercury, aluminum start dumping out, right? Really interesting stuff. So who knows when the last time her body even started dumping that mercury? Maybe it never did. I don't know. She does have the fillings in her mouth, as you can see, because about equal levels of silver and mercury. But she's to the point now, just from that higher dose, that her body feels confident to start pushing out the mercury, which is incredible. Now, interestingly, now her vitamin status got a little bit worse, which makes sense, because before, on the binding dose, the vitamins were getting better, the minerals were getting better, because she wasn't really doing a deep level detox. It was more of a health maintenance dose. But now that she's detoxing this deeply stored mercury, which is absolutely what we want, but on the way out of the body, it's going to be slightly stressful. That's just how it works. That's why the body wants to resist detox at all costs. But she was able to do it with the high enough dose, and it did, She didn't feel anything the whole time. So she didn't feel sick. She didn't get a headache at all. But you can see it just slightly used up some more of the body's resources as the mercury was leaving. But the point is, it took her 4 tablespoons a day to get to this point. She could have continued on 2 tablespoons for 5 years, and it potentially never would have removed any mercury from deep storage. So it's all dose dependent. Here's another example. So here's someone who, we've got over like 6 months, not a whole lot going on. She was actually detoxing most things, but just not the mercury, really. And she had 14 amalgam fillings removed during this period. So she has a bunch of mercury in there. But overall, there's not a whole lot of movement with things, about the same. And what we did was we said, all right, let's double the dose again. And she was also, there's a separate case study video you can see on this on the page. She was also taking OSR, which is the strongest known synthetic chelator out there, especially for mercury. And it still wasn't removing mercury, which is very interesting. All right, doubled the dose. She just went on 4 tablespoons of ZeoCharge. Look at the dramatic improvement. I mean, this is over 6 months. Nothing's really happening. Here's 1 month. Exactly 30 days later, just from doubling the dose of ZeoCharge, bam. Incredible improvement in minerals. And look at this. The mercury is finally popping up. Everything else is going down now because her body's completely focusing on the mercury detox. Very interesting stuff. And her vitamins actually greatly improved. So very interesting. She just needed that extra dose, extra 2 tablespoons. So it's just dose dependent. Not everyone's going to need that much. Some people can get the full detox and binding effect on 1 tablespoon. Some people need 2. Some people need 4. Some people need 6. I mean, we just had another client who was on 4 tablespoons and she was getting headaches and constipated and all sorts of issues. She raised it to 6 tablespoons. It greatly reduced her symptoms, right? And she was able to continue on the detox. And she has a very difficult time detoxing in general. So we see it all the time. It's just very dose dependent. It's always better to err on the side of a higher dose than a lower dose. But that's just basically binding dose versus detox dose.